All right. Officially welcome to today's virtual information session through Columbia College Chicago and the Graduate Studies Office. Today's topic is all about our Cinema and Television Directing MFA program. I am one of your presenters today. My name is David Martz. I'm the Assistant Director of Graduate Admissions. If you're interested in this program, you have likely reached out to me or you've had some sort of email correspondence, and I'm the point of contact for you at this early stage of admissions. And joining me today as my co-presenter is Eric. Eric, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Eric Scholl. I'm both the graduate director of graduate programs. I'm also the co-director of the School of Film and Television. So I wear a couple of different hats. And I'm also a documentary filmmaker.
Multi-titled Eric Scholl. And between the two of us, we hope to get all of your questions answered today. Obviously, I will be on hand to answer sort of more of the general admissions questions, and Eric can answer your questions that are really particular to the program. And before we launch into the program, which is what today's topic is about, I wanted to take a step back and talk not only about the city where we're located, but the school as a whole, as an institution. And we'll start with talking about Chicago. For those of you who are maybe less familiar with Chicago, Illinois, we are the third largest city in the country with nearly 3 million residents. It's an affordable cultural hub with a welcoming artist community. Chicago is home to many creative industries in visual arts, dance, film and television, theater and music, with plenty of theaters, galleries, festivals, dance companies, music venues, film and television productions, and arts organizations. There is no shortage of art to see and artistic opportunities to explore in Chicago, and Columbia will help you build your professional network, initiate your strategy for creating and nurturing professional relationships, audiences, and supporters. And our students really do take advantage of not only everything that's available to them on campus, but everything that's available to them in the city area as a whole. And now, about Columbia. So our school, we are an arts and media school located in the heart of downtown Chicago's Cultural Mile. More specifically, the area is the South Loop. Um, I'll get more onto that on the next slide. Our mission is to educate students who will communicate creatively and author the culture of their times. That's taken directly from our mission statement and is really reflective of the types of programming that we offer at Columbia. Um, Over 50% of the student population identifies as a person of color. We are committed to being an anti-racist institution, and we are really committed to diversity, and we feel that the more diverse a classroom is, it only leads to greater innovation and creativity. And there are about 5,500 students who attend Columbia. The overwhelming majority of those students are undergraduate students. Our graduate population is much smaller. We have somewhere along the lines of 150 to maybe 175 graduate students across all disciplines on campus on any given year. And then, as I mentioned earlier, here's a little bit of an overhead view of our campus. Again, we're a condensed urban campus located in the South Loop neighborhood of Chicago, of downtown Chicago. Uh, all of these reddish orange circles represent the 20 plus administrative, residential, and academic buildings that we have on campus. So as you can see, our campus is really essentially two blocks east and west, and about a mile and a half north and south. Um, we'll talk more about the locations of some of your buildings in upcoming slides, but this is an overview of campus. We are conveniently located to several major public transportation options. These purple dots represent some CTA, Chicago Transit Authority train options, and then these purple dots indicate the metro trains, which go out to the outer suburbs, the commuter trains. So again, several options for public transportation. And then we're also very close to Lake Michigan, 2 blocks away, as well as many other cultural, historical, and entertainment destinations. This is Grant Park here, which is host to many things, from the start and stop of the marathon to food and art festivals to a little music festival called Lollapalooza. All of that happens in Grant Park. And then we're very close to museum campus, which has the Field Museum, Shedd Aquarium, and the Planetarium. So again, this is just an overview of where we're at in this city. And then I think the next couple slides are all for Eric. So Eric, I'm going to kick it over to you to talk about the program more.
Great, thank you. So this is a Master of Fine Arts program, and it focuses on directing. And as I'm sure you know, a Master of Fine Arts is a terminal degree, which means once you get your degree, you can actually, you can either go into the industry, you can make films, you can also teach if you'd like to at an institute of higher learning. This is a 2-year program. It's 56 credits. And among those 56 credits, there are a number of required courses, which we'll get to in a sec. And you also get to take 3 electives while you're here. This is a full-time program, and it works in a cohort model. So everybody starts full-time, and you go through the whole 2 years with the same group of students in your classes. And the one place where you will be able to mix and match with some of the other years, like if you're a second-year person, or a first-year person. In some of your electives, you will be able to take classes with some of the second years. You also have electives open to you in other departments.
So we'll go into detail about some of these highlights in upcoming slides, but what are some quick highlights of the program?
Okay, so this is a collaborative curriculum focused on storytelling, as it says here. So our main goal is to produce writer-directors who get their vision up on the screen in the way that they, really want it to be seen by an audience. And it also lets you learn a whole bunch of other production skills in addition to directing, although the main focus is directing. You're going to be surrounded by a lot of collaborators, both at Columbia. There are undergraduate people you can work with if you want to, so we don't, the program doesn't focus on things like cinematography, but you do take a cinematography class. And if you want to get into some of the really high-end stuff and work with people who are, pretty well versed in it, we have a wide group of undergrads to collaborate with. There's an MFA in scoring music for the screen that you can collaborate with. And there's a whole lot of people at other schools that you can work with, and a really vibrant community, film and television community. We have industry standard facilities, we have high-end cameras and equipment. But the equipment isn't the thing that makes the film. It's your vision and what you do with it. So some of the other areas you will explore, you'll take a class in sound, you'll take classes in editing, you'll take classes in producing, line producing. So you come out with a full understanding of how making a film works and all the aspects. And it's really important for a director, even though they are the one who is mostly concentrated on performance and visuals, for them to understand every facet of how a film comes together, so you know how to work with department heads. And when you're done, you leave with a good solid portfolio. You come out with 2 short films the first semester, 1 short film the second semester, a TV series or TV pilot the third semester, and then finally your thesis film. Plus, you'll also come out with a screenplay for a feature film that you can certainly develop if you'd like to.
So I said we go into detail about some of those, and let's take a deeper dive in the curriculum. Let's talk about what the curriculum looks like.
Absolutely. So your first semester, you'll take and first of all, let me tell you, all of these classes that you take the first semester are connected. So in other words, they're all working on the same projects. So you take a screenwriting class, and in that screenwriting class, you develop and write the scripts that you will then direct in your directing for the screen class. Constructing the Image is a class about creating composition, using visual storytelling, and learning lighting and cinematography. So you learn there how to shoot the films that you'll be shooting in the directing for the screen class. Sound acquisition and design is a class that teaches you mic use and on location sound mixing. So you use that to do the sound for the films, and then editing theory and practice, you learn editing concepts and you edit the films. So basically, you come out with, the first semester, you come out with 2 short films. There's a memory film where you make a film based on one of your classmates' memories. You actually direct their memory, and then a turning point film where you do a film about where one of your characters has a major turning point. In spring, then, we actually added a class to this. We have a class in spring. Oh, there it is. Screenwriting revision and script block. And just that takes place during our January session. And in that, you take the script that you wrote at the end of screenwriting 1, and you turn it into something that is producible in directing for the screen too. You also take a course called Ideation and Development, in which you go over your past work, whether that's in film or writing or other creative areas, and find out what is interesting to you as a creative theme. and you come up with a few different things. You come up with ideas for your thesis project that you'll do the following year. You also come up with ideas for a TV series that we'll be directing the following fall. And we also end that with a pitch session where you pitch your idea to a bunch of grad faculty and kind of see who might make a good thesis advisor. You also take a line producing course. In the line producing course, you learn how to produce the films that you're directing and directing for the screen too. Those films are a bit longer than the ones in directing for the screen one. You just make one film that semester. And then you also take a theory and cinema and TV studies class. So those are the required classes, and you also get to take a 3-credit elective, either in the department or one of the other departments. So now, by the end of the second semester, you'll have 3 short films under your belt. Then in fall, we teach a financing class where we talk to you about how to do crowdfunding for your films. There's a writing and directing the series class in which we have you further revise the script for the TV series and then direct either a series of short webisodes or a TV pilot. This semester, we are in the middle of that, and they're doing a TV pilot. The whole TV series takes place in the back of an ambulance. So we actually rented an ambulance, and the showrunner for that, one of the students is an EMT, so it's based on his own personal experience. You also take screenwriting too, which is a class in which you write a feature film. We don't have you produce the feature film, but you come out with a ready to go script. Thesis workshop lets you further revise and develop your thesis project idea. Then you take another elective, either in the department or out of it. And then there's a thing called thesis credit. So while you're here, you take 3 credits of thesis. And what that is, it's not a class that meets. It's just a class that allows you to meet with your thesis advisors on a regular basis. And it allows you to go over plans for what your final thesis project will be. And also, some people, so you need to take 3 of those. Many people do 1 in fall, 1 in spring, and then most people save 1. So either for the summer or for the following fall, because you need to be registered for something to use our equipment. And we have great equipment. We have cameras, we have lights, we have dollies, we have all kinds of stuff you can use. So that keeps you registered, and it also keeps you as a full-time student. So, as long as you're registered for at least 1 credit of thesis, you're full-time, and that means you don't have to pay back your student loans yet. It keeps your visa up to date if you are coming from another country, etc. So many people will save 1 of those to either shoot over the summer or to shoot and or screen in the fall. Spring has an advanced pre-production class where you go over the pre-production for your thesis film. Marketing and distribution and exhibition talks about what to do with your film once you're done with it, because unless it gets in front of an audience, it kind of doesn't exist. Applied post-production goes over finishing concepts, so how to develop a workflow for finishing your thesis film. Career management talks about going out in the world and making connections and networking and figuring out how to get a job. And then 1 more elective in the spring. And those are the 56 credits that you will take. I should also let you know that we do have an option for semester in LA, but unlike the undergrad section of semester in LA, since this is full-time in Chicago, semester in LA for grads is only done during the summer. And really, it's just an internship. You do a 3-credit internship. It counts as one of your electives. Some of our directing students do want to do that. If you're interested in that, I can talk to you about how to make that happen. You can also just go to LA on your own and get an internship, but this is a more structured way to do it.
Yeah, so what this question is often asked to me about what directors do specifically. So talk a little bit about what a director does.
Exactly. So directors have sort of 2 different stages of work. So the first thing they do is they're the creative center of the project. So oftentimes, so for our directors, you're the writer director. So you come up with a script idea, you write the screenplay. You can adapt. If you have a piece of property out there that you think could be interesting, we can help you get the rights to that, and then you can adapt, say, a short story. And then you're also the creative vision visually. So you come up with the shots that you want and how you want the whole overall visual mood of the film to look. And then you work with your cinematographer to make that happen. Now, the second stage of that is what the director's role is on set. And the director's role on set is really about getting performance. It's not so much about the visuals. Hopefully, you've conveyed your vision to the cinematographer, And that allows you to really work with the actors closely on set to make sure that you're all on the same page, speaking the same language, and you get the performance that conveys what you want. And that's really the bulk of the collaboration. It's all about working with the actors to, collaborate, not to tell them what to do, not to move them around like props, but to say, this is what I'm going for. How do you represent this character? You also work and supervise all the department heads. So when I'm on a route with a major fire department area, so there's sirens going by. I'll wait just a sec. So part of the job is working with department heads and also trusting your department heads, conveying your vision and letting them do their job. So, and you're also responsible for the overall look and feel of the project. And so that includes what we call mise en scène, which is everything that's in the frame. So the props, the costumes, the visuals, the actors, the overall look, the lighting, how, the mood of the piece. Those are all things you work with your department heads, but you're the one that guides what they need to know. And you also have the technical knowledge of how everything is made. And that's why we teach you all these other things beyond directing. So if somebody, so if you need to know how to talk to a cinematographer to get the results that you're looking for. And also you're kind of a general leading the troops. I hate to use a military, analogy, but you develop a relationship so that people will follow you and do it gladly because they know what your vision is and your communication is clear. So that's kind of what a director does.
There we go. Come on. There we go. So what can realistically directors after they graduate, what are the types of jobs where you can move into upon graduation?
One of the things we always say is directing is not an entry level position. No one's going to post something on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, I need a director." So the way you become a director is by directing. So make short films, get your short film seen, shown, screened at festivals. Netflix picks up short films. We've had lots of short films go into major festivals and people see them and then they give you a chance to direct something else. But the other thing is, the other way you become a director is to start doing something else in the industry and indicate your willingness and skill in doing something like that. So the things we teach you here are producing, mostly line producing, but also just general producing. Producing is very much a creative field. We teach you how to write, we teach you editing, we teach you script supervising, we teach you assistant directing. So these are all things that can help you get your foot in the door, get you to meet the right people that could help you get your goal of becoming a director. And like I said, the main thing is just showing you can do it. Make films, get your films out there. You're a director because you say you're a director and because other people recognize your ability to do it.
Let's talk about some of our alumni.
So Akanksha Krasinski was an MFA in 2022. And her thesis film was really strong. And I believe if you look for Close Ties to Home Country, you can see it. I believe it's on YouTube now. It was in Sundance, and then it went on to get a Student Academy Award, Silver Award. So she has a student Oscar, which is really amazing. And she's, been working to, look for whatever the next opportunity is. We have a filmmaker named Tridev who made a film. He made it in India. He was on the short list for the BAFTA Awards. And I think he was also on the Gotham Awards. Ksenia Naughton did a period piece called Jack and Anna about a couple that got married. It was two women, one of them essentially posed as a man so that they could, in the early in the late 19th century, there were no laws that allowed for same-sex marriage. So they basically, did it anyway. And this is based on a true story. And it was really successful in the filmmaking or in the festival circuit. She got all kinds of different awards and she's been winning a lot of screenwriting awards since then. There are a lot of screenwriting festivals out there and awards, contests. So that's something you can do with your feature film script. Deshauna Wright she was a producing person. She developed a film while she was at Columbia. And then she took that film to Los Angeles to semester in LA, and it became Departing Seniors, which is a horror comedy shot in Chicago that was directed by an actor whose name I can't think of right now, but it played at the Chicago Film Festival and it has gotten some good press. Toy Monique Hawkins is the Vice President of Development and Scripted Program at BET. Long Jung Bae won a Student Academy Award for her thesis film. Thavery Crouch came out of here and became first the Assistant Chicago Film Office Director, and then moved on to New York. She's the Assistant Director of the Film Office in New York. Annie Tai is an Emmy Award-winning editor. Ayanna Floyd was co-executive producer on Empire and The Shy. She works with Lena Waithe. And Diana Weyerman came out of the program much earlier and produced a lot of the documentaries that you've probably seen, like Citizen4 and both Inconvenient Truths. And her latest, right before she passed away, was All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, which is just an absolutely harrowing film about the opioid crisis.
Facilities, I mentioned a couple different buildings. Let's talk about where you would be at for classes.
So your main hub is going to be 1104 South Wabash, which is a historically significant building that's right at the corner of 11th and Wabash. And then if and that's where most of the directing classes and the studies classes will be held. Also the editing classes. There's great facilities. There's a nice theater. There are facilities for editing, facilities for sound, and also that's where both of our equipment centers are. So that's where you'll pick up a lot of your equipment.
And then the Media Production Center.
Media Production Center is about 5 blocks south, so it's a good 10-minute walk. Some people do it in 15, but I always do it in 10. It's got a absolutely huge 35,000 square foot broken into 3 sound stages. We have one giant sound stage, one smaller sound stage, and we also have a virtual production room where there's an LED wall where you can do virtual sets behind your actors. There's also a shop where you can make pretty much anything you want out of wood, styrofoam, construction. We can make miniatures that can then be green screened in. So lots of opportunities to build stuff there. And that's also where like the lighting and camera support equipment. So things like dollies, tracks, everything from LED lights to HMI lights are all picked up there.
And then another building I'll talk about is our Student Center. This is our newest building on campus.
Can I put in one more thing that
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the other building that's not on here is 600 South Michigan. We have 3 TV studios there, and in 600 South Michigan, we use 2 of the TV studios as permanent sound stages. There's an apartment set in one, and there's an office set in the other. So those are things that you can also use where you don't have to pre-build anything. You just go in and there's an apartment and you can use that. And then there's also a blank studio where you can do multi-camera shoots if you want to. And that is something we do teach you.
And I'll just take this opportunity to also say that our campus has served for many a film set in many locations. I've helped people reserve lobbies. I've helped people reserve what was a faculty lounge, and then the director of that project turned it into a doctor's office waiting room. I've had people reserve hallways in front of elevators because they wanted an elevator. This new student center, there's really nice boardrooms that have the train running literally right behind it, and I've had somebody book that for a boardroom scene. So really, all of campus in a way can become available to you for some of the things that you're filming. But this building here, this is our student center. This is our newest building on campus. It is, as the name suggests, a center for students across all disciplines. Given that we're an urban campus, there wasn't a lot of communal spaces before this building was built, but now it really does serve the varied needs of our varied students. In the student center, you'll find food courts, coffee shop, plenty of study lounge spaces. There's a DIY makers crafting space on the 2nd floor. The career center is also located here. The fitness center is here. Like I said, many of practice and meeting spaces and potential places for you to not only shoot, but do pre and post production meetings. And there's an exhibition hall as well here in the Student Center.
And there's coffee. That's important.
And there's coffee, correct. Centrally located right there in the middle of campus. Let's talk a little bit about a couple more slides before we take questions, one of which is funding. Funding is a very important part of the decision-making process about whether or not you can attend graduate school. When we talk about funding at Columbia, we're talking about 4 different avenues, potentially: scholarships, working on campus, working off campus, and then federal loans. As far as scholarships are concerned, Columbia does have a variety of incoming and continuing student scholarships. The incoming student scholarships are the ones that are going to be most applicable to you as a new applicant. By applying on or before the priority deadline, which I'll talk about more in the next slide, you're going to be automatically considered for a graduate award scholarship. Those are merit-based scholarships that are based on the overall merit of your application as deemed, as determined by the faculty review committee. So not only are your application materials being used to determine whether you get admitted in the program, they're being used to determine whether or not you're potentially going to receive one of the graduate awards. They vary in value. There is nothing that covers 100% of your tuition, I'll be perfectly frank. These scholarships range from, on the low end, 25% of your tuition, and on the high end, maybe 60% of your tuition, depending on the scholarship. And then there are continuing student scholarships, some of which are specific to cinema and television students. I think I talk about that on the next slide, that you can apply to at a later date, maybe after your first semester. Working on campus, all graduate students, whether you're international or domestic, can work a maximum of 20 hours a week on campus. An assistantship is a job working for the Cinema and Television Arts Department specifically. You might be a teacher assistant, you might be a research assistant, maybe there's something tied to production. Eric can talk about more about what assistantships do during the question and answer period. Those positions are assigned at the time of admission. So just like the incoming student scholarship, you'll be considered for an assistantship. And if you get one, again, you'll do a job relevant to your field, and then you're paid with a stipend. I believe it's $3,000 each semester to work for the department. But all other campus jobs, and there are a variety of campus jobs all over campus, you'll later have to apply to with a separate application later after you've been admitted and you know that you're coming in and you're enrolled in classes. When it comes to working off campus, this is only for domestic students. If you're an international student in Chicago on an F1 visa, you can only work legally on campus. So for those of you who can legally work off campus, many students do. Our student employment portal, which lists all of our on-campus jobs, will sometimes also list relevant off-campus jobs. And then your academic department or the Career Center might know of other internships and other professional opportunities. I will say this is a labor-intensive program. You are in a lot of time is devoted to this program, so it does eat into the time that you have available to work. And you're certainly not going to be able to do a 9-to-5 job and do this program. But many students do find time to work in part-time or flex schedule jobs while they're in this program. And then lastly, federal loans. Again, just for domestic students, international students are not eligible for federal loans. But for those of you who are, you fill out your FAFSA. I believe the FAFSA opens this year in December. And then if you are admitted, you'll receive a letter informing you of your loan eligibility. So some of those scholarships that I mentioned, the Derek, I'm not going to read them word for word, but as you can see, the Derek Dean and the Diane King scholarships are both specific to cinema and television art department students. I just checked the website to see if they're still listed on there, and they are, so I'm assuming that means there's still a scholarship that exists. And then our Follett is open to all graduate students. It's up to $3,700 to help defray tuition costs. And then our Rosenblum, that scholarship is usually available to help students attend conferences, or I know film students who have used it to go to film festivals, because while they don't necessarily have professional conferences in your industry, a film festival or something similar to that is almost the equivalent of a professional conference. So those are just 4 scholarships that I pulled out from our scholarship page to highlight.
Can I throw in one thing?
Yeah.
One of the major conferences that's an academic conference for film and video makers and for academics is the University Film and Video Association. And we have often sent students to that. And you can present work, or you can do a panel if you'd like. We love having grad students on panels. Or you can just attend and see what it's like to attend an academic conference. And my co-chair, Wen Matsao, is the outgoing president. She was president for years of that organization. So she's a major resource for knowing what makes a good panel. and we've used the Rosenblum funds to send students to that. So that is certainly an option.
Perfect example. Application requirements. Let's talk about what it takes to apply. So the application has the following requirements: an application fee, a resume, 2 letters of recommendations, transcripts from any college or university you have attended, or transcript evaluation. We could talk more about that later. A personal statement. What to cover in the personal statement varies a little bit from program to program. You'll be given some prompts. And then the portfolio. We don't have time to go into super detail about the portfolio, but the portfolio is divided up into 4 sections: the creative portfolio, visualization project, case study exercise, short film, thesis statement. Eric, is there anything quickly you want to highlight or indicate
Yeah.
about the portfolio?
The one that tends to, not necessarily confuse people, but that people have questions about is the visualization project. And all we want there is just to see how you visually tell a story. So this is basically like doing a storyboard. So, just come up with an idea that you can tell in a certain number of short, either drawings or photographs or that sort of thing, and just put together something that kind of has a beginning, middle, and end and tells a really short story.
Yeah, basically 3 out of the 4 portfolio pieces are all exercises that everyone has to do similarly. As Eric mentioned, the visualization project is essentially gauging your ability to tell a story visually. The case study exercise is basically how you think critically about films. And then the short film thesis is basically an exercise to determine what idea is already swimming around in your brain right now for a potential thesis film.
And I should add that everybody asks, am I stuck with that idea? And the answer is, of course, no, definitely not. So many people actually do develop the idea they did in their short film thesis statement, but many people are like, wait a minute, after learning all this stuff, I want to do this instead. That's fine, that's normal, that's expected.
I've always wanted to see a study of how many people actually stick to their thesis film versus how many do something completely different. And then lastly, the creative portfolio. That's the one area of the portfolio where you can sort of submit whatever you want. You're given carte blanche to submit any creative work that you think rounds out the story of who you are as a creative. All of our application materials can be found at colum.edu/gradadmissions. And then international applicants may have additional steps to the application, one of which might be the transcript evaluation or potentially proof of English proficiency as well. 1 or 2 more slides to get to before we go to questions. What is the timeline for fall? So right now the application is currently open. Oh, well, what you should be doing right around this time is attending information sessions like you are today and doing research on your program and starting to collect your application materials. As I mentioned, the application is currently open. I recommend submitting your application as soon as possible. You don't have to go out and hit submit tomorrow by any means, but I also wouldn't wait until the final deadline or the priority deadline. Try to find some happy medium that gives you time to work on your application, but also gives you the peace of mind knowing it's submitted and you're not trying to scramble and get things in at the last minute. March 7th is the priority deadline. Nope, that is a total lie. That is, it's supposed to be, I forgot to do it. I did a terrible copy and paste job there. The deadline for this program, the priority deadline is January 7th. So you have until January 7th to apply to this program. If you apply after, we will still take your application in consideration, but you will not be considered for financial aid or opportunity. So if you want to be considered for financial aid, make sure you apply before January 7th. Again, that's January 7th, not March 7th. And then 3 to 4 weeks after the deadline is usually when you'll get your decision released. And then whenever you're admitted, if you are admitted, we'll give you until May 1st, May 15th to tell us your decision. So that's a little overview of the timeline. Some next steps: you can begin or continue your application by going to apply.colum.edu/apply, and then take advantage of any upcoming admissions events. We're winding down our events for fall, but we'll probably have some more in the spring. A full listing of our virtual events can be found at colum.edu/grad-events. And for those of you who are in the Chicago area or will be visiting Chicago, I'm always happy to arrange a visit to tour facilities, possibly even meet with Eric or a current student. That just takes a little bit of advanced planning. So just reach out to me and let me know and we can arrange something for an in-person visit. And we've come to the end of the presentation. We did it. What did we come in at? About 30 minutes, not too bad. I'm going to stop the recording and then we can start taking questions.